The importance of managing up and the luck of the draw, I guess, of your leader, your manager, can really affect the impact that you have in your job and also your ability to move within an organization. And I was curious if you could talk about some of the ways that you've managed up.
It's part of the reason I say picking your manager is a really important decision in a job. And so it's not just I want to join this company. Do I want to join this company with this person as my leader? And I think it goes back to what we were talking about earlier and the need for a broad network. And I think it's not just managing up, but managing across as well. And, I think no one should ever underestimate you because you could end up anywhere, and you should never underestimate anybody else. And I think if you treat everybody with respect and you can bring all that you are to work in a respectful way, which is find a way to bring innovative ideas without offending others, being smart politically, I think it's critical in large corporations to actually, I think you have to find a way of bringing the innovative ideas we were talking about earlier and pushing that idea, but in a way that's respectful of the fact that there's differences of opinions and how to maneuver that. And I think to be successful in large corporations, and it's different, I know, from small companies because I've worked there, you have to actually be decent at politics. It does matter whether you wanted to or not. It's an important part of getting there, and I think you also have to have a long-term view. If you build a broad network, you have lots of opportunities you might not have thought about. And I came to a point in my career at Pfizer where I was going to leave. I had a manager to a group that was not going anywhere, didn't want to change. I'm in strategy, and they didn't want to change. It's like the worst place if you're a strategist with a client that doesn't want to do anything. And I guess my thing was I was honest to my boss. Look, I'd like a new role, and I'm going to give it 6 months, and if not, I'm going to look on the outside. And they were shocked that I said that. Dumbfounded. And I gave it a few months, tried to network. It ended up being at the same time we were looking for a new CEO. So the politics were hard because nobody knew who was going to end up where. And I ended up getting a job, actually, at Citigroup. Really? And so I went and told my boss, and it was the same day that Jeff Kindler became CEO. And I said, I told you 6 months. It's been 8 months. I found this great job. I'm going to have strategy for the private bank. And there's like, oh, my God. Like, they almost didn't think it would really happen. And that's why I think Uda's guidelines really matter. As long as you're inspired and you're doing work you like and you see a path, great. If not, life will give you unexpected things. I got a call that afternoon from Jeff Kindler, the new CEO, saying, hey, how you doing? Jeff doesn't call me, so like Jeff who? Like, really? Jeff, I'm like, oh my God, on the phone, it's Kindler. Oh my God, he's calling me. And he basically said, look, we really want you to stay, give us 24 hours. And I thought, this is a large corporation. Nothing happens in 24 hours. It's an easy give. Sure, you got 24 hours. But the next day, they offered me chief of staff to the vice chairman at a great salary and setting the strategy setting the strategy group up. And that's why I say it wasn't expected. Wow. It wasn't a plan. They beat the comp. They said, look, big opportunity. You'll work for the vice chairman. You'll have, and again, I love the vice chairman. So I was like, again, I followed a person. I got out of my little hole and I followed a person. And
who is or was
David Shedlars.
And is he still the vice chairman?
Oh, no. He left probably 2 years later. And this is part of the reinventing
And Jeff
yourself.
Kindler left.
Well, yeah. You have to reinvent yourself. It really does matter. So, in the politics, maybe this is too long, a boring story, but in the politics, the way it was, he was a great mentor. I learned so much from, David Sellers. He was a CFO. He ran, half the company. But he was one of the candidates for the CEO job. And so that didn't last long between Jeff and David. And I was David's chief of staff and strategy person, and when David left, many people thought Jeff would fire me. But again, and they keep a really great relationship with a broad set of people. Jeff kept me in my role, and I reported to a new guy who came in from the outside, Frank. Did great. My whole group got moved under a new person who's hired 6 months later, so it was like my fourth boss. But again, have a broad network, and as long as you do, and I ended up getting promoted under Jeff Kindler, which many people were surprised because I was David's girl or whatever, woman. And then when Jeff left in December, I was definitely going to get fired again, and because Ian took over. But I'd built a broad network, and I'd worked for Ian before, and I think Ian knew that I was good at what I did, and so you have a long life if you build a broad network.
How strategic is this, thinking about this? This is managing up very, very well. Is this strategic, and there's nothing wrong with that, or is this just, it kind of comes naturally?
It's interesting. You talk about managing up, and it sounds like politicking or scheming. I think the core of it is that for whoever you work, you keep them informed on what you're doing and what you're finding. And if there's a decision that comes your way, you ask them. So I'm working on this. now you're asking me to do this also. What's more important? You send an email or whatever way you choose to talk to the person. Say, I was working on this and you sent me this. I assume that's more important, so I put the other thing on hold for now. Get an answer back. You managed up. You did. Your boss now knows what you're doing. You are not sidetracking them in any way, but in some ways you keep them in the loop. So managing up, I think, is keeping yourself broadly informed so you have all the perspectives. So when you do open your mind and you opine about something, that it is as broadly based, I guess, as it can be.
That's terrific. I love that. Thank you for that great question.
Thank you.